Few things are more frustrating than clawing your way through a level and finally seeing the end in sight, only to have it spoiled by an obnoxiously difficult boss fight. When it comes to this list of soul-breakingly difficult boss battles, they're a pretty varied bunch in terms of why exactly they emotionally scar the player. Some will mess with you psychologically, making you feel that your attacks are utterly useless, while others are just so powerful that even a slight miscalculation on your part guarantees you a trip back to the respawn point. So without further ado, let's get it. Yes, Psycho Mantis may not be all too difficult right now if you were to face him, but back in the day, when Metal Gear Solid was first released, this was far from the case. Of course, it's common knowledge now that the key to defeating him lies in unplugging your controller and plugging it into another socket. However, this was not the common thought back in 1998 before the internet was all that big. That's why all these years later, he is still considered one of the most unique and creative boss fights ever invented. Now for the obligatory Dark Souls entry of this list. Ornstein Smile, don't get on me, I have no idea how this name is pronounced, are certainly one of the most prominent and famous bosses in the famed Dark Souls series. As if facing one boss in the series wasn't enough, here we're treated to a tag team battle where both bosses beat the crap out of you at the same time. And sure, defeating one will briefly give you a small glimmer of hope that you may come out on the other side of the fight a stronger and more complete person. But that all comes to a whiplash-inducing halt when you see that the surviving boss gains the strengths of the other, making them a far more destructive force. Yay, Dark Souls. Without a doubt, one of the most relentless bosses in the Kingdom Hearts series, the Lingering Will is the armor of the lost Keyblade wielder Terra. The armor is possessed by the mind of Terra after Master Xehanort has taken control of his body. The Lingering Will can be found in the Keyblade Graveyard in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and serves as one of the series' several super secret bosses. This imposing boss has an arsenal of attacks, and relaxing your concentration for a moment will result in a barrage of attacks coming your way very quickly. It is absolutely ruthless and is a great example of what the series has to offer its players. Bald Bull, Glass Joe, and Piston Hondo. These are just some of the warriors that you'll face off with in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. But, thinly veiled national stereotypes aside, there is one fighter who's obviously in a weight class all his own. That fighter is none other than Michael Gerard Tyson. Fists like literal flying boulders, and the endurance of something that has very high endurance. You're gonna have to be quick on your digital feet to make sure you're not the one laying on the canvas when the bell rings. Those of you who are willing to be cold, ruthless, and even unfeeling throughout their Undertale playthrough certainly got more than they could handle with this final boss fight. The mental toll that this fight takes on you makes it almost overwhelming for any gamer. Even the mere thought of having to face Sans at the end of the game may actually convince many players to take the pacifist approach out of sheer fear, avoiding the fight altogether. However, if you choose to avoid the fight, you will also be keeping yourself from one of the most intense boss battle theme songs in a long time. While Goro has never had the honor of being the big bad himself in any game, in many gamers' eyes he poses an even larger challenge. Overwhelming strength, a fireball for long distance attacks, and super armor that leaves you open for a beatdown every time you try to attack. Goro has a disgusting array of moves and very little exploitable weaknesses. The fact that NetherRealm thought, nah, we'll make him the second to last boss, absolutely blows my mind. Final Fantasy is quite the famed series with its fair share of adversaries for your party to square up with. No other pair of monsters posed more of a deadly and disheartening threat to your squad than the Ruby and Emerald weapons from the most beloved entry in the series, Final Fantasy VII. No matter how much time you spend grinding and sending your party members' stats through the roof, one misstep in your tactics and you'll end up with a team of dead party members. So you'd better be sure to polish up your skills and your battle plan if you hope to topple these Goliaths. Well, what did you think? If you disagree, then I welcome you to share your thoughts with us about which boss is giving you the most trouble. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe for even more Slurp content. Thank you, and good night.